perfectly well. My note was purloined." "Purloined!" retorted Wilson. "I'll let you know that neither you nor any man of your kidney must venture to—" The Chair. "Order, gentlemen, order! Take your seats, both of you, please." They obeyed, shaking their heads and grumbling angrily. The House was profoundly puzzled. It did not know what to do with this curious emergency. Presently Thompson got up. Thompson was the hatter. He would have liked to be a 19er, but such was not for him. His stock of hats was not considerable enough for the position. He said, "Mr. Chairman, if I may be permitted to make a suggestion, can both of these gentlemen be right? I put it to you, sir, can both have happened to say the very same words to the stranger? It seems to be—" The tanner got up and interrupted him. The tanner was a disgruntled man. He believed himself entitled to be a 19er, but he couldn't get recognition. It made him a little unpleasant in his ways and speech. Said he, "So that's not the point. That could happen twice in 100 years, but not the other thing. Neither of them gave the $20. A ripple of applause. Billson. "I did." Wilson. "I did." Then each accused the other of pilfering. The Chair. "Order! Sit down, if you please, both of you. Neither of the notes has been out of my possession at any moment." A voice. "Good! That settles that." The Tanner. "Mr. Chairman, one thing is now plain. One of these men has been eavesdropping under the other one's bed and filching family secrets. If it is not unparliamentary to suggest it, I will remark that both are equal to it." The Chair. "Order! Order! I withdraw the remark, sir, and will confine myself to suggesting that if one of them has overheard the other reveal the test remark to his wife, we shall catch him now." A voice. "How?" The Tanner. "Easily. The two have not quoted the remark in exactly the same words. You would have noticed that, if there hadn't been a considerable stretch of time and an exciting quarrel inserted between the two readings." A voice. "Name the difference." The Tanner. "The word 'very' is in Billson's note, and not in the other." Many voices. "That's so. He's right." The Tanner. "And so, if the Chair will examine the test remark in the sack, we will know which of these two frauds—" The Chair. "Order!" "Which of these two adventurers—" The Chair. "Order! Order!" "Which of these two gentlemen—" Laughter and applause. "Is entitled to wear the belt as being the first dishonest blatherskite ever bred in this town, which he has dishonored, and which will be a sultry place for him from now out." Vigorous applause. Many voices. "Open it! Open the sack!" Mr. Burgess made a slit in the sack, slid his hand in, and brought out an envelope. In it were a couple of folded notes. He said, "One of these is marked 'Not to be examined until all written communications which have been addressed to the Chair, if any, shall have been read.' The other is marked 'The Test.' Allow me. It is worded to wit: 'I do not require that the first half of the remark which was made to me by my benefactor shall be quoted with exactness, for it was not striking and could be forgotten. But its closing 15 words are quite striking, and I think easily rememberable. Unless these shall be accurately reproduced, let the applicant be regarded as an impostor.' My benefactor began by saying he seldom gave advice to anyone, but that it always bore the hallmark of high value when he did give it. Then he said this, and it has never faded from my memory: 'You are far from being a bad man.'" 50 voices. "That settles it." The body's Wilson's. "Well done! Well said! Reach! Reach!" The people jumped up and crowded around Wilson, wringing his hand and congratulating fervently. Meantime the Chair was hammering with the gavel and shouting, "Order, gentlemen, order! Order! Let me finish reading, please." When quiet was restored, the reading was resumed as follows: "Go and reform, or, mark my words, some day for your sins you will die and go to hell or Hadleyburg. Try and make it the former." A ghastly silence followed. First an angry cloud began to settle darkly upon the faces of the citizenship. After a pause the cloud began to rise, and a tickled expression tried to take its place, tried so hard that it was only kept under with great and painful difficulty. The reporters, the Brixtonites, and other strangers bent their heads down and shielded their faces with their hands, and managed to hold in by main strength and heroic courtesy. At this most inopportune time burst upon the stillness the roar of a solitary voice, Jack Halliday's. "That's got the hallmark on it." Then the house let go, strangers and all. Even Mr. Burgess's gravity broke down presently. Then the audience considered itself officially absolved from all restraint, and it made the most of its privilege. It was a good long laugh, and a tempestuously whole-hearted one. But it ceased at last, long enough for Mr. Burgess to try to resume, and for the people to get their eyes partially wiped. Then it broke out again, and afterward yet again. Then at last Burgess was able to get out these serious words: "It is useless to try to disguise the fact. We find ourselves in the presence of a matter of grave import. It involves the honor of your town. It strikes at the town's good name. The difference of a single word between the test remarks offered by Mr. Wilson and Mr. Billson was itself a serious thing, since it indicated that one or the other of these gentlemen had committed a theft." The two men were sitting limp, nerveless, crushed, but at these words both were electrified into movement and started to get up. "Sit down," said the chair sharply, and they obeyed. That, as I have said, was a serious thing, and it was but for only one of them. But the matter has become graver, for the honor of both is now in formidable peril. Shall I go even further and say in inextricable peril? Both left out the crucial 15 words. He paused. During several moments he allowed the pervading stillness to gather and deepen its impressive effects, then added, "There would seem to be but one way whereby this could happen. I ask these gentlemen, was there collusion, agreement?" A low murmur sifted through the house. Its import was, "He's got them both." Billson was not used to emergencies. He sat in a helpless collapse. But Wilson was a lawyer. He struggled to his feet, pale and worried, and said, "I ask the indulgence of the House while I explain this most painful matter. I am sorry to say what I am about to say, since it must inflict irreparable injury upon Mr. Billson, whom I have always esteemed and respected until now, and in whose invulnerability to temptation I entirely believed, as did you all. But for the preservation of my own honor I must speak, and with frankness. I confess with shame, I now beseech your pardon for it, that I said to the ruined stranger all of the words contained in the test remark, including the disparaging 15. Sensation! When the late publication was made I recalled them, and I resolved to claim the sack of coin, for by every right I was entitled to it. Now I will ask you to consider this point and weigh it well. That stranger's gratitude to me that night knew no bounds. He said himself that he could find no words for it that were adequate, and that if he should ever be able, he would repay me 1,000-fold. Now then, I ask you this: could I expect, could I believe, could I even remotely imagine that, feeling as he did, he would do so ungrateful a thing as to add those quite unnecessary 15 words to his test? Set a trap for me? Expose me as a slanderer of my own town before my own people assembled in a public hall? It was preposterous. It was impossible. His test would contain only the